This is the story of something that still makes my skin crawl every time I think about it. I'm going to tell you about the time I had a stalker, a real one. Not the type you hear about in movies or those weird online stories. This actually happened, and I swear every word is true. It started in the winter of last year. I had just moved into a small apartment in the city for work. It wasn't the nicest place, but it was all I could afford. The building was old, the walls were thin, and the heater made a clicking sound at night that always kept me half awake. But I didn't mind it at first. I was just happy to be out on my own. One evening, I was walking back home from work. It was dark, and the street was nearly empty. I didn't notice anyone at first, but then I had this strange feeling, like someone was behind me. You know that feeling? Like your back gets cold and your ears get warm at the same time. I turned around, quickly. No one was there. I shook it off and kept walking. Maybe I was just tired, but from that night on, the feeling wouldn't go away. I started noticing small things. At first, it was harmless. Like, a shopping bag I had left outside my door was moved to the other side. Or the mail I hadn't picked up yet was already in my apartment, though I had no memory of bringing it in. One time, my toothbrush was dry even though I had just used it. I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then it got worse. Began getting calls. No one would speak. Just silence. I'd say hello and wait. Nothing. Not even breathing. But I knew someone was there. Once I hung up and the phone rang again immediately. Same silence. I blocked the number, but they kept calling from different ones. I stopped answering unknown calls altogether. But the messages started next. The first message I got was simple. Just 2 words. Nice sweater. That wouldn't be creepy by itself, if I hadn't just bought a new sweater that day and wore it for the first time. I hadn't posted about it. I hadn't even seen any friends that day. Only someone who saw me in person could have known. That's when the fear started to really settle in. I told my building manager. He brushed it off, said I was probably imagining things. I even went to the police, but without proof, they couldn't do anything. Keep a record, they said. Call us if something happens. But every day felt like something was happening, even if I couldn't prove it. Then one night, I came home and found a note on my pillow. I still remember how it looked, handwritten in neat letters. It said, "Why don't you ever wave back?" I froze. I didn't even go inside the apartment right away. I stood in the hallway, heart racing, eyes tearing up, just trying to make sense of how someone had gotten in. I lived alone. I locked the door every day. I checked the windows. But someone had been inside, had walked around my place, had watched me. I didn't sleep that night. I bought a bunch of locks the next day, even though my landlord told me I wasn't allowed to change the main door lock. I did it anyway. I also bought a small camera and hid it in the bookshelf facing the door. I didn't tell anyone, not even my friends. I wanted to catch whoever it was. A few nights later, I went out for dinner with a friend. I stayed out later than usual. And when I got home, I saw something that almost made me throw up. My door was unlocked. I swear to you, I had locked it. I always did. I had double-checked it that night before leaving. My stomach dropped. I pushed. The door opened, slowly. Everything looked the same, but that was even scarier. Whoever had come in didn't steal anything. They didn't touch anything. They were just there. I went straight to my laptop, took out the camera's memory card, and plugged it in. The video showed nothing for hours, just the quiet apartment. Then around 8:17 p.m., the door opened slowly. A figure stepped inside. A man. He was wearing a black hoodie. He didn't look at the camera. He moved around the apartment like he knew every inch of it. He walked to the kitchen, looked in the fridge, sat on my couch. Then, this part still haunts me, he walked into my bedroom, picked up one of my pillows, and hugged it. He stayed, like that for 5 full minutes, just hugging my pillow. Then he put it down, walked out, and closed the door behind him. I called the police immediately. When they saw the footage, they finally took me seriously. They told me to stay with someone for a few days. so I went to my sister's place. The police put a surveillance team around my building. 2 nights later, around 3 a.m., they caught him. He came back, like they knew he would. He had a key. That's how he'd been getting in. Turns out he was a former tenant of the apartment, someone who never gave back his copy. He had been evicted a year before but never really left. He lived in another building a block away, just watching, waiting. They arrested him, of course. I never saw him again after that night, but the nightmares stayed, for months. I moved out, changed my number, deleted every social media account I had. I didn't feel safe anywhere for a long time. And you know what the scariest part is? It wasn't that he was inside my home, or that he had touched my things, or that he was watching me without me knowing. It was that no one believed me at first, that I started to think I was going crazy, that I doubted my own mind. That's what fear does. It makes you question what's real and what's not. But now, I always trust my gut. Always check the doors, and if I ever feel like someone's watching me again, I won't wait. So, if you ever feel like someone's behind you, or something feels off, don't ignore it. Don't brush it away like I did at first, because you never know who's watching. You never know when they'll come back. This is the story of something that still gives me chills when I talk about it. I'm going to tell you about the time I helped a stranger, someone I thought just needed a little kindness, and how it turned into the scariest experience of my life. It all started one evening when I was walking home from work. I take the same path every day, through a quiet neighborhood with a few shops and small houses. That day, it was cold and cloudy, the kind of weather that makes people hurry home. As I was passing by the closed bakery, I saw a woman sitting on the curb. She looked like she was in her late 30s, with messy hair and a pale face. She wasn't dressed for the weather, no coat, just a long sweater and thin pants. She looked up and said softly, "Excuse me, can you help me?" I stopped. She didn't look dangerous. She looked sad, tired. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I lost my bag," she said. "It had my phone and everything. I don't have anywhere to go." Now I know what you might be thinking. You should be careful with strangers. And you're right. But something in her voice made me feel sorry for her. I thought, what if this was my mom? Or my sister? I couldn't just walk away. "Do you want me to call someone for you?" I asked. She shook her head. "I don't remember anyone's number." After a short pause, I said something I now regret. "You can come to my place for a little while, just to get warm. We'll figure something out." Her eyes lit up. "Really? Thank you. Thank you so much." We walked together to my apartment. She didn't talk much on the way. I asked her name. She said, "Kate." That's all. Once inside, I made her some tea. She sat on the couch and wrapped herself in the blanket I gave her. She looked around the room slowly, like she was trying to memorize every detail. I tried to ignore it. Maybe she was just nervous. She sipped her tea and smiled at me. "You're very kind. People don't usually help." I smiled back, but something about her eyes made me uncomfortable. They were wide, too wide, and they didn't blink much. After a while, I said, "I can help you get to a shelter, or maybe the police can help." Her face changed instantly. The smile disappeared. "No," she said. "I don't want to go to a shelter, or the police." "Why not?" I asked. "I don't like those places. Too many rules. Too many people watching you." I didn't know what to say to that. I nodded and told her she could stay for a little while, but I had work in the morning. I figured she could rest, and then I'd help her find a better place. The next day, I let her sleep on the couch and went to bed. That night, I had trouble sleeping. I kept hearing small sounds, the creak of the floor, the soft click of a door. At one point, I thought I heard whispering. I sat up and listened, but the apartment was quiet. I told myself I was just being paranoid. In the morning, when I got up, she was in the kitchen, already awake. Just standing there, not cooking, not eating, just standing, looking out the window. "Good morning," I said. She turned slowly. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. "Yeah, I guess," I said. "You?" "I don't sleep much," she said. "Too many bad dreams." She didn't say anything else, just went back to staring out the window. I left for work feeling uneasy. I texted my friend telling them the situation. They were shocked I let someone into my place. "That's not safe," they said. "She could be anyone." I tried to defend myself, but a part of me agreed. I decided that when I got home, I'd gently ask her to leave and help her get somewhere safe. But when I got back that evening, something felt wrong. The lights were off. The door was unlocked. I walked in slowly. "Kate?" I called. No answer. I turned on the light and saw something that made my blood run cold. All my pictures were gone. Every single frame from the shelves, the walls, empty. I looked around and found them in a pile on the floor in the corner, all the photos removed, the glass cracked. Then I heard a voice behind me. I didn't like how they looked at you. I spun around. She was standing there, holding a photo of me and my family. "They judged you," she said softly. "Even through the pictures, I could feel it." "Kate, what are you doing?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She smiled. "I'm helping you. You helped me, so now I help you. No one will judge you anymore." I felt a wave of fear crash into me. "I think it's time for you to go now." She tilted her head. "You want me to leave?" "Yes," I said. "I'll call someone to come get you, okay?" She looked hurt, her eyes filled with tears. "But I thought we were friends. I thought you understood me. I was just trying to help," I said carefully. "You did," she whispered. "But now you're like the others. You want me gone." She walked slowly toward the door, but before leaving she turned and said something I'll never forget. "You'll see me again. People like us always find each other." Then she walked out. I locked the door, double-checked the windows. I sat down, heart pounding, unsure if what had just happened was real. I called the police and told them everything. They came, took my statement, but said without a threat or crime, there wasn't much they could do. They promised to keep a lookout. A few weeks passed. I changed the locks, got a security camera, tried to move on, but one night as I was going to bed, I checked the camera feed on my phone, and there she was, standing at the end of the hallway, just staring at the camera, not moving, not blinking. I didn't sleep that night. I moved out too, days later. I don't know where she went. I don't know why she chose me. But I've never helped a stranger like that again. And I never will. So, if you ever feel sorry for someone, and you want to help, please, be careful. Because sometimes, the people who seem the most broken are the ones who can break you, and you never know what they'll do once they get inside. This story, well, it's one I still can't believe actually happened to me. It's about the time I realized I had a stalker. Not some distant stranger or a creepy internet troll, but someone who was right there, closer than I ever imagined. I'm going to tell you everything, because, honestly, it still haunts me. It all began one quiet summer night. I had just finished a late shift at work and was walking home alone. My street was usually peaceful, lined with old trees and dim streetlights. I liked it that way. Calm, safe. But that night, something felt off. I was almost home when I noticed a shadow behind me. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, or maybe a stray cat. But as I kept walking, I kept hearing footsteps, slow, steady, matching my pace. I glanced back quickly, but no one was there. My heart started pounding. I told myself to calm down. Maybe someone was just out for a late walk. But the feeling didn't go away. I hurried my steps and finally reached my apartment building. When I got inside, I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. I told myself everything was fine, just my mind playing tricks. But that was only the beginning. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. I'd find small notes slipped under my door. No words, just drawings. Sometimes a simple smiley face. Other times, an eye staring right at me. At first, I thought maybe it was a prank from someone in the building. But there was something too personal about the timing of those notes. They always appeared when I was alone or out late. One morning, I woke up to find my front door unlocked. I was sure I'd locked it before going to bed. I froze. Someone had been inside my apartment. But nothing was stolen, just moved around. My books on the shelf were crooked, and my keys were on the kitchen counter instead of the table where I left them. I called my best friend, Sarah, and told her everything. She was worried and told me to be careful. "Maybe you should stay at my place for a few days," she said. But I didn't want to seem weak or paranoid. I promised her I'd be careful. That night, I decided to set up my phone to record near the door. I wanted to catch whoever was doing this. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with a video notification. I opened it and saw a figure standing just outside my door. It was a man. He wore a dark hoodie, and his face was hidden by the shadows. He was staring at the door like he knew it belonged to me. The next day, I took the video to the police. They said they'd try to patrol the area more but told me to stay alert. It didn't feel like enough. A few days later, I found a package left on my doorstep. It was wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with a string. I hesitated but opened it. Inside was a small photo album. I flipped through it, shocked to find pictures of me, taken without my knowledge. Photos from outside my window on the street, even some from inside my apartment. Someone had been watching me for weeks, maybe months. My hands trembled as I called the police again. This time, they took the case more seriously. I changed my locks and installed a security system. I told everyone I knew about the stalker, hoping more eyes would help, but the fear stayed with me. I felt like I was never alone. One evening, as I was working late, I heard my phone ring. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but decided to. "Hello?" I said, trying to sound normal. A calm voice replied, "You look beautiful tonight." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" I demanded. There was silence. Then, the voice whispered, "I'm closer than you think." The line went dead. I called Sarah immediately. She told me to come stay with her. I agreed. That night, as I packed my things, I noticed something taped under my kitchen table. A small piece of paper with just one word: waiting. I got out of there the next day and stayed with Sarah for a while, but even then, the feeling of being watched never left. Weeks later, I got a message on my phone from a new number. "You can't hide." I wanted to delete my phone, move to another city, disappear, but I didn't, because I had to face it. One night, while Sarah and I were watching a movie, her phone buzzed. It was a message from my stalker. "She's with you. Not for long." We looked at each other, frozen. That night, Sarah's apartment door was rattled by someone trying to get in. The police came quickly, but the stalker was gone. After that, I finally moved far away, changed my phone number, and stopped sharing anything online. It's been months now, and I don't know if he's still out there, but I do know one thing. The feeling of being hunted never really leaves you. If you ever get that strange feeling that someone is watching you, don't ignore it. Trust yourself. Because sometimes, the most terrifying monsters aren't in movies. They're real, and they're closer than you think. This story, well, it's one I've told only to a few close friends because it still gives me chills whenever I remember it. It's about how I found out I had a stalker, and not just some stranger far away, but someone who was closer to me than I ever imagined. I want to tell you this story now, so listen carefully, because it's real and it's scary. It started on a quiet Friday evening. I was coming home after a long day at work. My name's Emily, by the way. I live in a small town, and I like how peaceful it usually is. That night, I was walking down Maple Street, the usual way I take to get home. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. The streetlights hadn't turned on yet, so everything looked soft and calm. But something felt wrong. I had this strange feeling that someone was watching me. I looked around, but the street was empty. I shrugged it off and kept walking. When I reached my apartment door, I pulled out my keys. But then I heard a noise behind me, a quick, soft step. I turned fast, but saw no one. My heart skipped a beat. I told myself it was nothing, maybe a dog or a bird. I locked the door behind me and breathed out slowly. The next day, I started noticing little things. My phone would ring once, and then the caller would hang up. At first, I thought it was just a prank. Then, I found a note slipped under my door. It was a scrap of paper with just one word. Emily. No signature. No explanation. I felt uneasy, but tried not to think too much about it. Over the next week, the calls kept coming. Sometimes at night, sometimes early morning, and the notes became more frequent. Sometimes they said things like, "I'm close," or "watching you." It felt like someone was trying to scare me, but who? And why? I told my boyfriend, Jack, about it. He was worried and said I should tell the police, but I wasn't sure if they would take it seriously. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, I saw a shadow outside the window. I froze and looked carefully. There, just outside the glass, was a man standing still. He wore a dark jacket and a cap pulled low over his face. I didn't recognize him. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, and called Jack. He told me to call the police right away. I did. The police came quickly but found no one outside. They told me to keep all the notes and call if I saw the man again. After that night, I installed a security camera by my front door. I didn't want to feel helpless anymore. A few days later, I was sitting on the couch when my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen and saw a new text message. "I know where you are." I swallowed hard. My hands shook. I showed the message to Jack, and he told me to stay with him for a while. I agreed, even though part of me wanted to stay in my own place. That night, I had trouble sleeping. Every little sound made me jump. I kept thinking about the man outside the window. The next morning, I checked the security footage. There, on the video, was the man from the other night. He stood outside my door, looking up at my window, then slowly walking away. I didn't know who he was, but I knew he was dangerous. Jack and I went to the police again. This time, they opened an investigation. But the stalker didn't stop. One day, I found my mailbox open. Inside was a small envelope with a picture of me, taken just a few minutes earlier. The photo showed me walking out of my apartment building. I felt sick. How did he get so close? Jack wanted to move me to a safer place, but I felt trapped. This was my home. I didn't want to run away. Then, one afternoon, I saw him again. Not outside my window, but inside my building. I was going up the stairs when I caught a glimpse of the man. He froze when he saw me and quickly turned around, disappearing into the hallway. I called the police immediately. They increased patrols and said they would try to find him. Weeks passed, but I still felt watched. Then, one night, I came home late from Jack's place. I was tired and just wanted to sleep. As I unlocked my door, I heard a soft whisper behind me. "Emily." I turned quickly, but no one was there. I rushed inside and locked the door behind me. After that night, I decided I couldn't live like that anymore. With Jack's help, I moved to a new city. I changed my phone number, my routine, everything. But even now, years later, sometimes when I'm alone and it's quiet, I feel that same chill, the feeling of someone watching me. I don't know who that man was or why he chose me. Maybe he was someone I passed by every day, or maybe he knew me better than I thought. But here's what I learned. If you ever feel like someone is following you or watching you, don't ignore it. Trust your gut. Tell someone. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because sometimes the danger isn't far away. Sometimes it's right there, in the shadows, waiting, and it can change your life forever. This story I'm about to tell you is something that happened to my friend Laura. It's the kind of story that makes you think twice about your own safety, even when you feel safe. It's a stalker story, real and scary, and I want you to listen carefully, because what happened to Laura could happen to anyone. Laura was a quiet, simple woman. She worked in a small bookstore in a town not far from here. Nothing dramatic ever happened to her, or so she thought. She liked her routine. Wake up, work, come home, read a book, sleep, and repeat. But one day, things started to change. It began with small things. At first, Laura noticed strange text messages on her phone. No name, just strange short messages like, "I'm watching you," or "You can't hide." She thought it was a joke, maybe a prank from someone at work. She didn't tell anyone. She tried to ignore them. Then, the messages became more frequent and more personal. One message said, "You looked beautiful today." Another said, "I saw you at the cafe, sitting alone." Laura felt her heart sink. She never talked to anyone about these messages because she was scared. Who could be sending them? And how did they know so much? One evening, after closing the bookstore, Laura walked to her car in the parking lot. It was late, and the lot was nearly empty. As she walked, she felt eyes on her. She glanced around but didn't see anyone. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She hurried to her car and locked the doors immediately. That night, she told her sister Rachel about the messages. Rachel was angry and worried. She told Laura to go to the police and not to be alone. Laura promised she would be careful. The next day, Laura found a small envelope slipped under her apartment door. Inside was a photo of her, taken from outside her window. Her hands trembled as she stared at it. Someone had been watching her. She finally went to the police and showed them the photo and the messages. The police said they would investigate, but warned her to stay alert and not confront whoever it was. Laura started changing her routine. She stopped going to the cafe, took different routes home, and always looked over her shoulder. But the feeling of being watched didn't go away. One afternoon, Laura came home early and heard a noise in her apartment. She froze and slowly moved towards the living room. There, she saw a man standing by the window looking out. He didn't notice her at first. Laura's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, but she was too scared. The man turned around slowly. It was the stalker. His eyes were cold. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "You shouldn't have seen me," he said softly. Laura ran out, slammed the door, and called the police. They arrived quickly and arrested the man. It turned out he had been following Laura for months, watching her every move. Even after he was caught, Laura didn't feel safe. The man had left a deep mark on her life. She moved to a new city, changed her phone number, and started fresh. But sometimes, late at night, she still wakes up, feeling like someone is watching. Her story is a warning. If you ever get strange messages, feel like you're being watched, or see someone suspicious, don't ignore it. Tell someone. Get help. Because a stalker is not just a story or a movie villain. It's real, and it's terrifying, and it can happen to anyone. Even to someone as quiet and careful as Laura.